My name is Frankie Flood. I teach here at Appalachian State University in the Department of Art, and I am the coordinator for the jewelry and metalsmithing area. We focus a lot on jewelry specifically, but also objects. We make functional objects. Because of my background growing up the way I did, I was fortunate. My father was always like, if somebody needed something or wanted something, he could figure out a way to make it, and it would make it out of whatever he had. And so that's been a big part of my teaching, where if I can just build it, right, the students will come, and then we can make almost anything. And I tell them that even in the beginning class, like I do believe we could build almost anything they want to make. And so for me, that utilitarian aspect of metal and function, the history of function within craft, that's what really drew me to this medium. Yeah, so Alissa is one of my advanced metalsmithing students. Alissa came out, I think, as a painting student, discovered metals, and then it just I think it just kind of blew her world open in terms of what was possible in terms of making.
I've been working in metals for about 2.5 years. I was initially coming to App State to paint, but I got into a painting class and I didn't like it. I took a metals class just as an elective, and I just really fell in love with it. I fell in love with the material, all of the different processes and the abilities that you have working with metal, and it can take you down so many paths, and you can just create whatever you want based on these processes.
There's a work ethic. There's definitely this desire to learn and to make. And so she came with that, and that has just grown, and we've been able to, I think it's basically her interests have been fostered here through the program and through our department. And she's been able to accomplish some really amazing things.
My pieces are all around right now. I have a teapot going to the Brockway Center, and I have another piece going to Germany for the Munich Jewelry Week, and then it's going to travel all around to France and stuff like that. So I'm really excited about that one.
And so Alissa's had a lot of exhibitions recently where she's been able to show her work before she actually gets out of school. That's kind of unusual as well. That's something I try to promote, is that students need to be practicing what they do here, but they also need to find a way to get the work out into the world. And so Alissa's been engaged and involved in several national level exhibitions, and not just student exhibitions, but professional level exhibitions, which I think is fabulous. And then now a new opportunity to show internationally. You know, at some point in the history of craft, everything was technology, right? And so that's what we're doing here, is we're basically looking at how do we integrate technology into the things that we do, and how does that push the field of craft or the field of metalsmithing forward. And so Alissa has been able to capitalize, I think, on a lot of the things that she's learned, where she's integrating technology into these ancient processes that we do and combining those things. And so Alissa has done this really unique thing where she is using this ancient process of etching, metal etching, but then she is using software to be able to make designs. She can spray paint her metal on both sides, and then she's able to laser etch the paint away. So she can create incredibly detailed, intricate designs on that surface of that metal.
And then we register that and flip it so it's the exact same on the other side.
And then once she has done that on both sides, she can stick that in a chemical bath.
We came up with a bubble etching solution with ferric chloride, where we built a tank that had bubbles that come up. Ferric chloride is very accurate, but it is a very slow etching solution, especially after it's used time and time again. So the bubbles can remove that material that's falling, and then it increases the speed of the process.
So she can create these incredibly intricate, lacy, metal forms because she's coupling the knowledge of this ancient process with this new technology.
I pixelate my images through a software called Stitch Fiddle, and then each pixel in that software represents a color of thread or bead that I use, and then it creates the images and you build up by row to create the image.
I also think Alyssa's unique in that Alissa came from this region, and I think she's been around makers, people that like just made things out of need or desire to make things. And so she came with that knowledge, but then gets to add all this other stuff that she's learning in school on top of that.
My mom taught me how to crochet when I was around 8, and I kind of lost the habit over time, but then I picked it up as a way to kind of draw myself closer to her, and also because I enjoy the slower process and the more tedious process of building these images versus, say, like enameling or something of the sorts, and it creates lights and shadows that you wouldn't see if you were to enamel. The one-on-one experience with professors has been really impactful. The conversations that emerge from a singular question, when you have the time and space for that, they've inspired me to push my work further and to experiment with new processes.
You know, we interact so much in the studio. Like there's this connection. I mean, it's not like they come in, you profess information, and then they leave. It's like, no, we talk about things, we do demonstrations, and then we work on it. We problem solve together in the classroom, you know?
Frankie's great. He is incredibly knowledgeable about so many different things, and it comes from experience, but I think it also comes from the passion that he clearly has for learning and for teaching. You can say, I want to make anything, and he has so many ideas about what processes you can use and where it can take you, and he's always willing to help.
Now I think I'm reached a point in my career where, as a teacher, I get to take joy through my students' accomplishments, and that is like so fulfilling. Be like beyond just like it's not about my success, it's about their success and me getting to see like what they're capable of doing when they leave here. We'll figure out a way to do what you want to do. Like, I don't think there are any limits, you know? I mean, it's just because it comes out of just like skill and ingenuity and like knowing a material. Okay, so from a teaching standpoint, I think it's important that a student find their unique voice. And so I have to find a way when I teach to tap into who are you? Who is the student as a person? What are their true interests? And then we have to find a way to like tap into that honest inside kind of part of ourselves and say, okay, this is actually what drives me, or this is what's interesting to me.
My process has been a way for me to sit with my memories and to rediscover things that have been lost throughout time. I have an archive of roughly 15,000 photos from when I was a child. I really like images that are candid, that aren't so posed, and the narratives that can come out of that. I want to inspire people through the narratives that I'm creating and the symbols that I put all around through the etched borders that I make. So I hope that it reminds and like inspires other people to think about their own life and their own memories that they have with, say, their grandparents or within like religion or something like that.
I hope that my students realize that there are multiple avenues or opportunities for them to utilize their skills as long as they really have an in-depth knowledge of their material and their process. And so we need that. They need to get that when they're here. And so that's something I'm really excited about. And the fact that Alissa has had this success, it allows our community as a whole to actually like be better because of that one person's kind of achievements. It raises that bar, and it makes a situation where people realize like, oh, well, maybe I could do that. I could do that too. Oh, this opportunity exists. I didn't know that existed, right? Until someone kind of comes along and hits the mark, you know? So that's exciting.